You know, he's on the Senate Banking Committee and a big time impact player on the Republican side. Senator, welcome to Monday.
Good morning, Brian.
All right, so we know about, and we'll put these up on the screen, how many executive orders Joe Biden did in his first 10 days in office. But he's not going to stop there, apparently. While we'll talk about this in a little while, he's doing something maybe bipartisan when it comes to the relief bill. Let's talk about what he's going to do on immigration. I mean, he's just going to start naturalizing people on immigration unilaterally?
Yeah, Brian, of all the executive orders that the president has signed in his first few days in office, I think the ones that impact jobs are probably the worst. I mean, we all saw what he did on the Keystone Pipeline that cost more than 10,000 high-paying, good, blue-collar union jobs. But these immigration orders are going to have an even more sweeping effect. At a time when 10 million Americans are still out of work or struggling to get the hours they need, Joe Biden, through his legislation, wants to give amnesty to 15 million illegal immigrants. Through that legislation and some of these orders, he wants to invite millions of more guest workers to come into the country, or give people with bogus claims of asylum the opportunity to come here and work while they wait for their claim to be adjudicated if they ever even show up. That's not good for American workers. It's going to hurt jobs for Americans. It's putting American workers last.
And we're in a pandemic. Good job.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of these migrants that are coming, we have no way to screen their backgrounds for either health or for security. Look, President Trump negotiated with the president of Mexico the so-called Remain in Mexico policies. That said, if you showed up at our border from another country and you made some claim of asylum, you had to remain in Mexico, as opposed to being released into our country and being told to come back pretty please for some hearing at a far distant time in the future. Why would we rip up a bilateral agreement with Mexico, our partner to the south, that is working to give migrant workers the opportunity to come to this country and work for months, if not years, until they maybe, perhaps, show up for a hearing?
Well, just as we see with every new administration, they try to undo so much of the previous administration if they're from another party, and that appears to be what Joe Biden is up to. He's also, the new president, has a meeting later today, Senator, with 10 of your colleagues on the Republican side at the White House. They apparently called the White House yesterday and said, hey, we've got a counter plan to the $1.9 billion Democrat bill. And nobody from the other side has reached out to us, Mr. President, so we're reaching out to you. The big question, Senator Cotton, is Joe Biden ran on unifying the country, on being bipartisan. Here's his chance.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Joe Biden did run as a unifying candidate. That was the theme of his inaugural address. You've got his close ally, Bernie Sanders, out on television for the past 10 days saying that it's time to push aside the Republicans. There's no time to even speak to them. We've got to plow straight ahead on our far left agenda. I commend Susan Collins and the 10 Republicans who sent the president this letter and asked for this meeting. Last year, we passed multiple coronavirus relief bills. Many of them passed unanimously to help get people the support they need to make ends meet, to put food on the table, to keep a roof over their kids' head, to get the vaccines developed that we are now getting out to the American people at a rate of more than $1 million shots per day. Right. That was all done on a bipartisan basis last year. There's no reason why Joe Biden can't work with Republicans in Congress for bipartisan legislation if he's willing to push Bernie Sanders to the side and work with Republican senators, Republican congressmen.
Right. Joe Biden, President Biden, has invited those 10 to come to the White House. They're going to sit down together and hopefully come up with a bipartisan plan. But Bernie Sanders says he's all for bipartisan, but it's more important to get this amount of money. It's $1.9 trillion. Listen to this.
The question is not bipartisanship. The question is addressing the unprecedented crises that we face right now. If Republicans want to work with us, they have better ideas on how to address those crises, that's great. But to be honest with you, I have not yet heard that.
Does your party have the votes to pass the relief package through the reconciliation process if you decide to go that route?
Yeah, I believe that we do, because it's hard for me to imagine any Democrat, no matter what state he or she may come from, who doesn't understand the need to go forward right now in an aggressive way.
Does he have the votes?
I'd be very doubtful, Ainsley, if Bernie Sanders has the votes for some of his proposals. Remember, he may be a socialist, but he's kind of a silk stocking socialist if he wants to send checks for thousands of dollars to families that are making more than $250,000 a year. That was his proposal. That's what he wants to do right now. I don't think many Democrats want to send $1,000 checks to families that are making more than $250,000 a year. Republicans said, let's make sure this relief is targeted. Let's get it to people who are still in need, who are out of work, who can't get the hours they need. Obviously, our vaccine distribution system could probably use a little bit more support as well. That's the kind of targeted relief we passed just a few weeks ago at the end of December, and that we're open to doing so again. What we're not willing to do is to have a budget-busting bill that is not even related to the coronavirus in so many ways. We need to stay focused on the needs of the American people and keep those relief programs tightly tailored to those needs.
Yeah, you didn't hear any big rush for Bernie Sanders over the summer and through the fall. He's got to quickly pass the bill. You didn't hear that. You didn't hear it from Nancy Pelosi, but now they're in a massive rush because times are wasting. Meanwhile, we already spent $4 trillion, but they forget to add that in. Let's talk a little bit of Iran. This man got arrested for acting as an agent of Iran and pushing propaganda. He previously penned a New York Times, you're familiar with this, you know this process, editorial piece about this and put the staff in an uproar. Here's a quote from it from Assistant AG, his name is Afsharabi. He said, for over a decade, Kaveh Afsharabi pitched himself to Congress, journalists, and the American public as a neutral, objective expert on Iran. However, all the while, he was actually a secret employee of the government of Iran and the permanent mission of the Islamic Republic of Iran to the United Nations, who is being paid to spread their propaganda. This is hiding in full view.
Yeah, Brian. First off, we have way too many unregistered agents of foreign governments in our country who are doing things exactly like this, writing op-eds, going on TV, lobbying Congress. I'm glad the Department of Justice is continuing to focus on this problem, whether it's Iran, China, or any other country. But second, let's remember what the New York Times did last year when I published an op-ed saying that we should send in the troops if necessary to restore order. Within a couple of days, had a meltdown in their newsroom. They put an editor's note on my op-ed, even though they couldn't cite a single factual error, and I was supported by the majority of the American people. And over the last few weeks, I've been supported by a lot of liberals when I said the same thing about the violence at our Capitol. So that op-ed got an editor's note within 2 days. I think it's been something like 8 years now, and this alleged spy for Iran's op-ed still doesn't have an editor's note at the New York Times. So it just goes to show you what the sensibility of the New York Times editorial board is.
I think we kind of have that idea. All right, Senator, thank you very much for joining us on this snow day.
Yeah, thank you all. Everybody stay safe out there.
You too.
Indeed. All right.